What's going on, guys? So my top 5 health anxiety or hypochondriac disease scares. My goal is to relate with some of you guys, and hopefully the information that I share will help you in overcoming your health anxiety or hypochondria, or maybe pushing you to get some of the reassurance that I needed to get during that time, and maybe just I can relate with some of these symptoms that you're having. That's my goal. If you're ready to kick anxiety in the butt, smash that like button down below. We're going to get right into this. Leave me a comment throughout this video or after if you prefer, and just let me know what your top 5 health anxiety or hypochondriac health or disease scares that you had or that you are going through currently. Maybe we can get a discussion going in that comment thread. So without further ado, we're going to jump right into this. The first one is heart disease. My first panic attack is what sparked this off. I had a 6-hour-long panic attack, started with a palpitation, had tachycardia after that for the next 6 hours. The chest pain started to happen towards the end of that panic attack. My blood pressure shot up through the roof. It was like 160 over like 95 or 100 in that neighborhood. And then from that point on, for 2 or 3 weeks, it felt like somebody just punched me in the chest. I thought I was having recurrent chest pain from having a massive heart attack, which was just a panic attack. That lasted for 2 or 3 weeks. It was the muscle tension that was causing it, but I was just thinking that I had some major heart problem. My bad habits had finally caught up to me, and I was dying of a massive heart attack at the age of 20. So that's what I dealt with. I dealt with that for 2.5 years really strong. Now, throughout my whole 5 years of health anxiety, I felt chest pain on and off towards the end. But towards the end, I started to realize, hey, I'm fine. I'm having these chest pains because of my anxiety, and I would brush them off so they became less frequent. They happened less frequently. Now, I didn't get the reassurance from the doctor that I needed in the beginning. And probably the first 6 months, I was just miserable. I was scared to go to the doctor to find out that I had some heart problem. I was terrified. So I should have gotten that reassurance in the beginning. I spent my whole day on Google looking up symptoms. Finding out that high blood pressure and nausea and fast heart rate and all this were indicators of heart disease. I was a smoker at the time, so I thought this was contributing to my heart disease. High blood pressure rate in my family. There was just a lot of factors that I felt were going against me, but I was young, and this health anxiety made me irrational. So finally I got to the doctor, ran my EKGs, my blood work. It gave me some momentarily reassurance and relief. That didn't last very long. I kept worrying and obsessing after that, thinking, because I would still have these chest pains afterwards, and it would happen in times where I didn't feel anxious. So if you haven't seen the video that I made on having anxiety symptoms when not feeling anxious, it's a very, very good video that has helped many people with reassurance, because your subconscious can still cause these symptoms. So I would be chilling, and out of nowhere, my heart rate would shoot up out of nowhere, or I would have some chest pain. I was like, the doctors must have been wrong. They must have missed something. So I went back a couple more times. I went to the hospital at my job. Back in the day, I was actually a general manager of a sporting goods store, left out of work, panicked, ran out. Somebody said the word heart disease, and it freaked me out, I guess. So went to the hospital, had all my symptoms, vitals, and blood work done, EKG, and they told me I was fine. And I think that was at that moment that I received a $2,500 bill. I was like, maybe I should start trusting the doctors. So I started to trust them, and gradually it got less and less and less, and I realized it was just a symptom of anxiety. So that's what my heart disease scare consisted of. It was terrifying. It was really the worst out of all of these, because heart disease, thinking I was having heart attacks, it was like a crazy drop dead kind of thing. It wasn't like, cancer or something that took a long time to progress. So the next one, guys, that I thought that I had was colon cancer. I always had horrible IBS symptoms, always had constipation, diarrhea, gas, bloating, everything, pains. So it's very easy. These are a lot of the same symptoms that you would get for pretty much any stomach condition, including cancer. So I was irrational, and that's what I thought I had, because I knew that I had issues with my digestive system since I was a kid. It was hard for me to use the bathroom, so I was starting to think, this is catching up with me. I had this crazy pain in the lower right section of my stomach. It was above where my appendix was. It was right where the bottom part of my colon was. So I'd been looking up, Googling like I shouldn't do, and had found out that this could be some symptom of colon cancer. So I basically convinced myself over a 2-month period. I didn't want to go to the doctor. I was like, well, maybe it'll go away, and I'm scared to find out. I was still scared. I was that guy that was scared to go to the doctor because I didn't want to find out that I was dying. That was my kind of thing. I wasn't the one that went too much. I should have went more, honestly, to get that reassurance. So what I decided to do was, like, I'm going to make a doctor's appointment. So I made a doctor's appointment, and guess what? I kid you not, 45 minutes to an hour later, no more stomach pain, and I didn't deal with this from then on. I've never had pain there again in my life. Amazing, right? That pain was present there for 2 agonizing months, and then the minute I made a doctor's appointment, it went away. So I didn't even go to the doctor's appointment, and it never came back. Basically, just me giving myself some hope that I was going to go get help made me stop worrying about it, and it got it off my chest, I guess. I was relieved of it, and the pain just magically went away. The power of the mind is amazing, guys. We always underestimate how powerful our minds are and how we can manifest pain. The third one is lymphoma. I always had ear issues. I mentioned that in the anxiety and swollen lymph node video that I did. I explained it in detail there, but briefly, guys, I always had ear problems since I was a child. Had tubes put in my ear. I've had major ear infections my whole life. Really made some huge problems for my right ear. Lost my hearing a couple times for a few months. Very severe eardrum damage, punctured that, ruptured eardrum, whatever you want to call it. Well, it really has disrupted the tube that drains fluids into my throat. Well, I have lymph nodes that run along my jaw like all humans do. You have lymph nodes under here. Lymph nodes are throughout our whole body. So I felt around on one and felt like something wasn't right. It felt too big. And I was like, I wonder what that is. I wasn't even jumping to conclusions yet, but I was like, oh man. I didn't know it had anything to do with the drainage in my ear. I did have some ear stuffiness for this. And this whole ordeal right here lasted for 1.5 years, mind you. This went on forever, multiple doctor visits. But whenever I thought it was lymphoma, it was literally because I was sitting on the couch at my other home, and a commercial came on talking about lymphoma. And I was like, that's it, lymphoma. I was like, that's what it's got to be. It's my lymph node, and it feels swollen and big. Come to find out later down the road that messing with your lymph nodes over and over can actually make them swell. They're very sensitive to touch and feel. So whenever you mess with them a lot, they're going to swell up. They also can go up and down with any type of infection. Mine obviously was being irritated because I had drainage going from my ear down to my throat, and that drainage system was disrupted. So that made me swell, probably soaked up some infection there. They're kind of like filters. They help fight off infection. That's why they swell. We have them in our groin, under our armpits. They're actually throughout our whole body. So I was terrified by this. I was like, hearing all these nightmares about lymphoma, and it was like the most common cancer for young people. So that scared me furthermore. So I kept going to the doctor about this. I probably went like 3 or 4 times. She refused to give me a CAT scan, which now I guess I'm glad she didn't. So I didn't have to pay $3,000 for that. But she knew what she was talking about, and eventually I just had to get over it, suck it up, and trust her. And nothing has happened. She told me that I could eventually get another tube put in this ear. I may do that. I may not. I've heard of complications with that. Somebody actually let me know that it actually is very irritating for an adult to get one. It just is uncomfortable. So I don't know. I haven't had any ear infections since then, so I should be okay. But that was eventually the symptoms went away. I guess the drainage issue kind of solved itself for the time being. And then I stopped worrying about it, and then that was it. That was the end of my lymphoma scare. The next one is brain cancer. This was always a huge fear of mine because it runs in my family. My great-grandfather had it, then my grandfather had it, and I'm after my dad. I don't know. They both were fairly young whenever they got it, so it's one of those terrifying things that it's always been in the back of my head, even before I had health anxiety. I would always tell people, like, I know I'm probably going to have to, eventually I will have brain cancer because it's just lined up in my family, and it's just something that I'm not going to be able to avoid. So whenever I start having weird symptoms that I thought were brain cancer symptoms, after Googling, again, you see the common grounds here. Googling is not a good thing, especially if you have health anxiety. Stay away from it. Everything's going to lead to cancer probably if you Google your symptoms. They're going to show you the worst thing first because they want to help people that way, but it also sells. The worst diseases sell. So I started getting headaches, migraines that were associated with anxiety. I would have these on and off. Every type of pain that there was, dull ache, sharp pain, radiating, everything, localized. And then I would have blurry vision associated with either panic attacks or just general anxiety. There were days where I felt like my eyes were going crossed. I was wondering if maybe I did actually had lymphoma and it spread to my brain and I just let it go and didn't get it checked after I thought I was better. It was just crazy. This went on and on and on, probably for about 3 or 4 months. And then the headaches started gradually going away because I started taking care of my body. I started making sure I was hydrated. By the way, 80% of us are chronically dehydrated. Dehydration is going to cause headaches, and somebody that doesn't even deal with anxiety, think about what they're going to do for somebody that's suffering from an anxiety disorder. So stay hydrated, my friends. You got to take in more fluids. So that started to help out with the headaches. As I continued to get a handle on my anxiety, the blurry vision kind of went away. I would have like vertigo, like I would have some weird like dizzy spells and like off balance issues, but that's common with anxiety as well. So I was putting all this together and just trying to convince myself that I had brain cancer. I never went to the doctor over this. I kind of had told myself I'm tired of going to the doctor over these things and just getting told. So I guess subconsciously it's like I knew that I didn't have anything wrong. But that's ironic because subconsciously I was causing these symptoms. So that was the end of the brain cancer stint for me. The next one and the last one is throat cancer. This was a fairly short scare. This probably lasted about 2 or 3 weeks. I got sick and I had a sore throat, but then I had some really localized pain right around my Adam's apple area. Every time I would swallow, I felt it. This was like one of the most convincing things ever, and I don't know why. This is the last one that I'm mentioning, but it happened kind of in the middle of my health anxieties, stint, if you will, or period of time. It was fairly quick, but it was the most convinced I'd ever been. I had felt that for a few days. It kept on hurting, localized. I'd been Googling once again, like I shouldn't have, and found out that a lot of the symptoms that I was having was of throat cancer. And I was like, oh, I had been dipping, I was a smoker, I was a heavy drinker. I was like, finally, this has caught up with me, and now I'm going to be one of these young people that suffers from throat cancer and miserable cancer. I was looking up the survival rates. I was looking up treatment options. I told my wife that I was freaking having throat cancer problems, that I was going to have to go get diagnosed and fight cancer. I even had her like kind of freaked out and like convinced that I had throat cancer. That's how convinced that I was. But after 2 weeks, the pain magically went away, and then magically I stopped worrying about it. So there you go, guys. That's my top 5 hypochondriac or health anxiety disease scares. If you're going through any of these, guys, the best thing I can tell you first is to get the reassurance from the doctor. You owe it to yourself. Do that. Go get expert advice and testing done. Do what you got to do. Don't go overboard with it. Listen to them when they tell you what it is. Trust them. They are the experts. We aren't. What other choice do we have aside from going and getting your doctorate degree and diagnosing yourself, right? So believe them, trust them, do whatever you got to do to make this process start. From there, find out your root cause of anxiety. It could be anything, guys. I can't tell you what your root cause or your underlying factor. It can be anything from genetics, childhood trauma, to breakups, to divorces. It could be anything, guys. But you got to figure out which those are, and that's at the point where you can start working on your anxiety by using other things that I talk about, a plant-based diet. Make sure that you're doing daily exercise and meditation, 15 to 30 minutes early in the morning or right before bed. Do 10 to 20, 30 minutes of journaling every single day, writing everything down. You need to also be doing CBT. You can actually go get that from paid therapists, but you can also do what I did and hustle and grind and figure out how CBT works, and you can actually do it on yourself. That's how I got better as well. Positive affirmation videos, there's guided meditation videos, there's channels like mine. Go to my recommended channels. I got a couple people on there that help with mental health that I will be recommending to you. Aside from that, guys, keep going after resources, books, and workbooks. I got an anxiety store down below that you need to check out. It has many books and workbooks over panic disorder, health anxiety, depression, social anxiety, all of those types of anxiety disorders. It's good to take advantage of everything that you can. Become a Patreon, or a patron, excuse me, today. My Patreon account also is down below. If you ever want to do any Skype sessions with me, maybe we can work on your anxiety, or if you just want to hang out for 30 minutes or an hour, that's where you can sign up for that. It's $1 to enter, but there's many rewards on there. There's polls, access to my photo, behind the scene footage, thank you notes, personal videos that I can send to you. So be sure to do that. Also a Patreon QA video that I will be doing once a month. You can ask me anything that you want and I'll give an in-depth answer. Aside from that, my social networks, guys, my Snapchat, my Instagram, I'm leaving one out. Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter. Yeah, I still post my videos on there, and occasionally I do some personal posts, so check that out. Subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so you get updates whenever I put my videos out. Remember to like this video if you got some value. And again, leave me a comment down below. This is a long video, so put I made it, and then let me know your top 5 health anxiety disease scares. I'm curious to know and see if we have some common ground and if I can relate to you. Thank you so much, guys, for watching this video. If you watched the whole thing, thank you. You are a ride or die subscriber, and I appreciate you with all of my heart. Have a great afternoon.